I'll tell you what, I have been patiently waiting for this one right here. This, along with Mancera Intense Cedrat Boisé, have probably been two of the Mancera fragrances that I've been most excited to try. I've got a lot of them, and I always get excited when a new fragrance from the brand is released, but these two I've really been looking forward to. Of course, this one is Mancera Tonka Cola. So, I mean, just the name looks amazing. You take a look at the note breakdown, it also looks incredible. So, as soon as I saw this one show up, I was like, yeah, I got to get that as soon as I can. Now, Intense Cedrat Boisé, in my opinion, was a 10 out of 10 hit. I think they did amazing with that one. So we'll see if they can keep the ball rolling here. Instead of a flanker, we're having a new release. This is going to be a new scent entirely. So I'm excited to dive into this one. It is still sealed up, so I'm going to open it up, tell you how it smells off the bat, off the first spray, what it reminds me of, if anything, and just kind of, you know, what I think it's going to amount to. If it's going to be something good that you should check out, or if it's going to be something you can pass on. Okay, so here we go. Here it is. Now, I have never held a 60 ml Mancera bottle until now. So we're doing this together for the first time, and they are much smaller in person. That's never a good thing to hear, right? But yeah, that's what it is. Just fits in the palm of my hand perfectly. Really, really small little thing. It does still have the magnetic cap feature that they're switching over to, which is cool. And this is very out of character for me. You're probably wondering, why did I get a 60 ml? Well, these briefly popped up on eBay. They had a couple 120s and a couple 60s. I got one of the last 60s. The 120s are already sold out, so this is kind of my only option. I'm still super glad to have it though, and I'm sure if I end up liking it, I'll end up getting 120 ml just because it's going to bug me having this one just sit there being the oddball out in terms of the sizing here compared to all of the others. No one cares about that. What we care about today is the scent. So I've got a fresh, clean spot on my hand. Nice pressurized atomizer that you come to love from Mancera. The upgraded presentation is very nice on these. And let's see, I can already smell it. Immediately getting cherry, immediately getting cherry, and what I was also going to say was this kind of fizzy Coca-Cola smell. Now, I did look at the note breakdown, like I said, as soon as this was first announced, I was checking it out, and so I saw those notes, and it's what intrigued me to really have an interest in this. But the name itself, Cola, you expect a fizziness, right? And you definitely get that. This fizzy, rich, sweet, cherry, cola kind of smell. Wow, that is really quite something. It has this texture to it that I haven't really discovered in any other fragrance, at least that I can put my nose on and that I can kind of compare up against this. This is just kind of on its own here. You know, really, really unique, bubbly, almost effervescent sweetness, which sounds weird. You kind of think those things wouldn't go hand in hand. Sweetness with like a bubbly fizziness, right? Typically you would equate that to like a neroli fragrance or citrus, bright petitgrain fragrance or something like that. But this is not that. It's sweet with that bubbly nature, which I think is really cool. So what do you guys want to do first? You want to look at the full note breakdown, or do you want to look at comparisons? We'll do notes first. Up top we have cherry, cinnamon, lemon, and nutmeg. In the mid we have Coca-Cola, patchouli, orange blossom, and the base tonka bean, vanilla, benzoin, and labdanum. So of these notes, immediately the cherry was discernible without question, like right off that first spray. That's one of the first words that stumbled out of my mouth before I started messing up my wording, is that cherry. And it really gives it a unique feel in and of itself, because that note isn't used a ton. Now, in terms of the cinnamon, not a whole lot. There is a sweetness to that kind of fizziness, and I probably would say it would be coming from the cinnamon, but it doesn't really come to the forefront all that much. Cinnamon sometimes can be tricky, and people will often kind of compare cinnamon heavy fragrances to smelling like a candle or something like that. So I don't want you to get the wrong impression. It's not heavy on that accord. In terms of what else we have, lemon, I didn't get a whole lot of that off the top, and still not getting a ton of it really. Nutmeg, maybe a little bit. That's probably also where some of that warm kind of spicy sweetness is coming from. In terms of the Coca-Cola note, yeah, I do get that. Now, whether this actually smells like Coca-Cola itself is debatable. You know, I wouldn't say that it smells like that, but it does have that texture. It does have that fizziness and that kind of bubbly nature. Patchouli, not a whole lot as of yet. We're still kind of working into this though. A lot of these notes may start to reveal themselves as you get it further into the dry down. And Tonka bean, what about that? You know, it's in the name as well, Tonka Cola, and you do get some, and that's also where that sweetness is going to be coming from. But ultimately, the Tonka bean in this instance is kind of giving off a little bit more of like a dusty, powdery nature that you would expect from certain derivatives of a Tonka bean accord. Sometimes it can be very, very sweet and almost borderline syrupy. Other times it can be kind of dusty, powdery, almost in the texture of like a benzoin or something along those lines. And here it's coming across more like the latter. It's a little bit more dusty, powdery. And speaking of benzoin, you have some vanilla as well. Not picking up on a ton of those yet, but again, the night is young. I would imagine this is probably going to stick around on skin for a while, and maybe towards the base, those will start to come out more. So really for me, what I'm getting a lot of is going to be that cherry kind of Coca-Cola Tonka bean mixture. A little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg, spicy sweetness. All right, now let's look at the comparisons. This is where things can get a little bit weird, and this is something that is all too common. So first up, we have Roja Parfums Enigma/Creation E in both concentrations, in both forms, the Parfum and the Parfum Cologne. Now, there's a lot of pushback on this. You see on Fragrantica, a lot of people are also hitting the thumbs down button on that. So it equals out to being where it's like 10 people are saying that it smells similar when you factor in the upvotes and downvotes across the board. Like 32 say yes, 22 say no. That means 10 people are really saying, yeah, this for sure smells like it. And personally, I don't really think it does. Now, one thing that's important to note with Enigma, Creation E, whatever, depending on where you live, right? It's the same thing. A lot of tobacco and a lot of a boozy accord in that fragrance, whereas this one doesn't. Now, similarities will definitely be that fizzy kind of cola smell. Both of them do have that. However, once you get past that, they go in different directions. Next up, L'Homme Ideal Eau de Parfum. So the reason why it's going to be compared to that is because of the cherry. It's the same phenomenon with pineapple automatically equals Creed Aventus clone. You see this all the time, and it's really kind of amusing. And aside from the cherry, I don't really think this smells like L'Homme Ideal Eau de Parfum. I have it. It's one of my favorites. Roja Enigma, also one of my favorites. I spent a lot of time with those fragrances. And aside from the base level comparison of having similar notes or a similar texture to some extent, there really isn't any basis for any sort of merit with that comparison. There's no almond in this. It doesn't have the same type of, feeling overall. It doesn't convey a similar message. I would say L'Homme Ideal Eau de Parfum is going to be much more classy and sophisticated compared to this, where it's a little bit more laid back and maybe even a little bit more playful in some ways. What else do we have? Invictus Victory. I don't really think so. Armani Code Profumo is interesting because that one also has this kind of root beer cola smell to it. But again, aside from that, and the fact that they both utilize a pretty heavy amount of Tonka bean, we're talking about different fragrances here. And Fève Délicieuse, which is kind of right out of left field. I understand it's all about the Tonka and stuff, but it's still, we're talking completely different things. So personally, as it sits for me, I've got to say, I think this is really an original release. Now Mancera, they have done fragrances that can kind of smell similar to things. For example, Instant Crush can kind of be in a similar vein to Baccarat Rouge 540. Even people stretch it and say that Cedrat-Boisé is similar to that of Aventus, right? So I definitely think there are some similarities to some other popular fragrances within their releases. However, with this one, while I guess you could say, yeah, maybe they took some inspiration from the Roja or even from Guerlain, I definitely wouldn't say that it's a clone. This definitely is not going to be a replacement to those, and it still kind of really does its own thing in a unique way, and I really, really like it for that reason. We're not losing any strength here, not losing any power, still very strong. I can smell it from here, but I'm going in closer to try to break it down more. Hasn't changed a whole lot yet. Staying relatively linear. I would imagine it'll evolve more after more than 10 minutes like we've been, going for here. But I like it a lot, I've got to say. I love that texture. The more you smell things and different things, and the more you've just been into this hobby, you kind of get used to how certain things come across and they can be predictable. But this one is not, it really kind of threw me for a loop there off the initial spray. It really had me excited because this is something that is refreshing and different. So I can imagine this being a really nice fall and wintertime evening out scent, maybe a little bit more casual, going to the bars with friends, maybe even on a date, that sort of thing. And just situations like that, just in the cool weather, having fun in the evening time. I do think, I guess it could work for a little bit more of an upscale situation. However, I would probably choose something different. Actually, I would maybe choose something like Roja Parfums Enigma or even the Guerlain and save this one for situations where it's a little bit more laid back and playful. It's warm, it's fizzy, it's rich, it's inviting, it's quite delicious, has a little bit of a gourmand aspect to it, and it's very addicting. I think this one here is another very impressive release from Mancera. This is the type of thing that I do think they could also really do well with putting out a flanker to at some point. I'm not trying to jump the gun here. We just got this. I understand that. But if they did it with Cedrat Boisé, a bestseller, who's to say that they won't do it with another bestseller like Red Tobacco or Instant Crush? Maybe at some point we could get an straight, pure parfum, intense version of this, and they could play on some of those notes a little bit more. Maybe toss in a splash of whiskey or rum or something, and maybe amp things up and make it even more heavy, and maybe give it a different take on that fizziness. Instead of Coca-Cola, it's something a little bit different, I do think there's room for variance here, and I really like that a lot. Very impressed with this one. I'm super pumped about it. This is the type of thing anymore that just really is exciting, and I think they did a great job. In terms of when you can get this, I don't know. It just kind of launched over in Europe, I believe, so people are just now getting it over there. I would imagine sometime in early 23, we'll be able to get it here in the US, and I'm super excited for that. Hopefully, it becomes relatively available before winter is over, so I could talk about it to you guys, and so you guys could have a chance to wear it before it starts getting warm again. We've still got some time. So that's pretty much it. Tonka Cola. Impressive. Big fan. I think it's a great release, and I'm happy to have it around. I'm glad they put this out. Let me know down below. Are you guys excited? Are you not? Have you tried it yet? If you have, what do you think? And that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.